The Alien Archive of Dimensional Sector 9. The universe is wide, ancient, and full of secrets that even the greatest civilizations cannot fully understand. But beyond the ordinary stars and galaxies, there are regions that do not follow normal physics. These places bend time, fold space, and shape reality in strange ways. One of these places is known as Dimensional Sector 9, a hidden zone that can only be found by those who already know where to look. It is invisible to most senses and unreachable by standard space routes. At the heart of this mysterious region floats an enormous structure called the Alien Archive. No one knows who built it. No one knows when it was built. And no one understands why it was built. But everyone agrees on one thing: it is older than time as most species measure it, and it contains knowledge that could change everything. The archive does not communicate. It does not welcome visitors. It simply waits, drifting silently in a dimension where the normal rules of existence break apart like dust. Many have tried to study it, and many have never returned. But the ones who do return always say the same thing. The archive is alive. And it remembers. Captain Lyra Soren had spent her life exploring the farthest corners of known space. She served as commander of the starship Horizon Reach, a vessel sent on missions too dangerous or too strange for ordinary crews. Her team was loyal, brave, and trained for the unexpected. But even they were not prepared for what they were about to encounter. It began when a faint signal reached the ship's communication grid. It was unlike anything they had heard before, not a language, not a code, and not a distress call. It sounded more like a whisper breaking through layers of static. Lyra asked her science officer, Dr. Ren Malik, to analyze it. He listened, played it backwards, slowed it down, and checked every frequency band. Finally, he looked up with a pale, uneasy expression. "It's not a message," he said softly. "It's an invitation." The ship followed the signal into the outer regions of an uncharted warp corridor. Space grew unstable. Colors twisted across the darkness. Artificial readings turned meaningless. The ship shook as if passing through a storm, but no storm was visible. When the turbulence finally faded, the crew looked out the main window and gasped. There it was, a gigantic metallic sphere floating in the void. It was cracked, ancient, and covered in glowing lines that looked like veins of energy pulsing beneath its surface. The sphere rotated slowly, creating ripples in the surrounding space. Sector 9. And at its center, the Alien Archive. Lyra decided to lead a small team inside. Herself, Dr. Ren Malik, Engineer Juno Vega, Linguist Karo Din, and Security Officer Surik Tal. Once they boarded the shuttle, the archive responded. It opened its outer shell like a giant metallic flower, revealing a passage that led deep inside. The opening pulsed with blue light, as if sensing them. As they flew in, the interior walls changed shape, bending and twisting to allow them deeper passage. It was as if the structure was alive and reorganizing itself to welcome them. The shuttle finally landed on a smooth platform. There was no air, yet they could breathe. There was no light source, yet everything was clearly visible. The walls around them shimmered like flowing liquid metal. "This place is rewriting physics," Ren whispered. "It's adapting to us." As they moved forward, thin strands of holographic light floated in the air. They looked like glowing threads, weaving together to form shapes, galaxies, planets, species, events. Every thread contained information. "This is not a building," Karo said quietly. "It's a mind." The first hall they entered was enormous, stretching farther than the eye could see. Rows of floating spheres hovered in the air, each one containing images of civilizations from across countless dimensions, some familiar, some utterly alien. Some spheres displayed worlds that no longer existed, while others showed civilizations that had not yet come into being. "It records the past, present, and future," Ren said, stunned. "But only fragments. The archive is choosing what we see." Juno approached one sphere showing a humanoid species with luminous skin. As she reached out, the image reacted. The sphere opened, surrounding her with a three-dimensional projection. Suddenly, she was standing on a glowing city street of that alien world, watching its people interact, trade, laugh, and build. "It's letting us experience their memories," Juno said, amazed. Another sphere displayed a different scene, one of destruction. A star collapsing into a black hole, wiping out everything in its system. Surik stepped closer and the image expanded around him, making him feel the gravitational pull. He stepped back quickly, shaken. "The archive doesn't just store information," he said. "It makes you feel it." As they continued, the temperature dropped. The glowing walls dimmed. The air became heavy, as if the archive was suddenly reconsidering their presence. Then they saw it. A tall, translucent being stood in the center of a chamber. It had no face, no defined shape, just a shimmering humanoid form made of shifting energy. It watched them silently. Karo stepped forward cautiously. "Are you a guardian?" he asked. The being reacted. Its form brightened, and a deep, echoing voice entered their minds. Sentinel. Keeper of the knowledge. Guardian of the cross dimensions." Lyra asked carefully, "Why did you call us here?" The Sentinel's form flickered. "Because the archive is failing." The Sentinel's words echoed in the chamber like a shockwave. Even though its voice was calm and measured, the meaning behind it was terrifying. "The archive is failing," Lyra repeated, trying to understand. "How can something this massive, this advanced, die?" The Sentinel tilted its luminous head. "Time unravels differently in Sector 9. The archive is not simply a structure. It is a dimensional consciousness. A living chronicle of infinite realities. But the threads of existence are thinning. Something is consuming them." Ren exchanged a worried glance with Juno. "Are you saying," Ren asked, "that realities are disappearing?" The Sentinel's form pulsed with a low, mournful glow. "Yes. Entire dimensions, erased without trace. The archive cannot record what no longer exists. My strength weakens as more realities collapse." Karo stepped forward, clutching his tablet. "But why bring us here? We're explorers, not cosmic engineers." The Sentinel looked at them, its featureless face somehow expressing urgency. "Because you are unnoticed. Unbound. Your reality lies far from the collapsing sectors. You are free to act while others are restricted." "Restricted by what?" Lyra asked. The Sentinel paused. "By the null entity." The name echoed with cold emptiness. Even the archive walls dimmed slightly at the mention of it. They followed the Sentinel into a deeper chamber. This hall was darker, colder, and filled with giant hovering monoliths. Each monolith displayed flickering symbols and fragmented visuals, as if the archive struggled to preserve what it once recorded. The Sentinel stopped before one monolith. "This is all that remains of several erased dimensions," it said. "Observe." The monolith activated, showing strange worlds flickering in and out like broken holograms. Cities crumbled, stars vanished, oceans evaporated. Each reality seemed to collapse inward, drawn into a void of absolute blackness. Ren felt his skin crawl. "That swirling darkness, that's the null entity." The Sentinel nodded slowly. "It is something outside creation. It does not live, does not think, does not feel. It consumes possibilities. It erases potential futures, pasts, and presents. It devours stories before they begin." Karo shuddered. "Why would anything do that? What does it want?" The Sentinel's form flickered weakly. "The entity has no desire. No purpose. It simply is. An emptiness that grows." Lyra took a deep breath. "So you brought us here because the archive cannot stop it alone." The Sentinel brightened slightly. "Yes. The archive was built to preserve existence, but not to fight void. That task falls to you." The Sentinel led them down a long bridge made of glowing strands. Beneath the bridge stretched a bottomless pit filled with shifting lights, like millions of tiny universes moving together. "These are the threads of reality," the Sentinel explained. "Every living world, every timeline, every possibility, all connected." Juno stared in awe. "It's like a cosmic nervous system." Ren nodded. "If the null entity consumes enough threads, the entire structure could collapse." The Sentinel gestured toward a large circular opening ahead. "You must enter the convergence core. There, you will witness the point where dimensions intersect. From there, you can trace the damage. You can find where the null entity feeds." Lyra frowned. "Trace it how?" "We're just humans." "Not just humans," the Sentinel corrected. "You are beings with stability. Your minds are not bound to the archive's timeline. You can see what even I cannot." Surik stepped forward, uneasy. "And what happens if we fail?" The Sentinel dimmed again. "Then all realities, including your own, will eventually vanish." The passage to the core felt like walking through an invisible waterfall. Light folded around them, stretching and bending as if time itself thickened. Their bodies tingled, and their senses swam. When they emerged, they stood in a vast spherical chamber. Floating around them were enormous streams of glowing threads, weaving and twisting like cosmic rivers. Each thread pulsed with a different color and frequency. Ren pointed to a group of threads tangled and darkened. That must be the damage.
Juno scanned them.
These threads are collapsing faster than the archive can repair them.
Karo's eyes widened as he looked closer.
These threads, they belong to advanced civilizations. Entire cultures lost. As they moved deeper, the threads grew more unstable. Some flickered like dying lights. Others snapped with tiny bursts of energy. Suddenly the entire chamber trembled. A low rumble spread through the core. The glowing rivers twisted violently, and a dark shape emerged between the threads, a swirling mass of shadow, silent and cold.
The room temperature dropped instantly.
The lights dimmed. The shadows thickened. Ren whispered, "Is that?"
Lyra nodded, her heart racing.
The null entity. The entity floated toward them, not like a living being, but like a rip in reality. It had no shape, no eyes, no form at all.
Just a void that swallowed all light around it.
Sarek instinctively raised his weapon.
"Don't!"
Ren hissed. "It's not made of matter. You can't shoot a hole in reality." But something else happened. Something far worse. When the entity drifted closer to a thread, the thread dimmed, strained, and then snapped. A burst of shattered light scattered like broken glass before disappearing. The loss sent a ripple through the core, making the entire chamber shudder.
Juno stepped forward, horrified.
Every time a thread snaps, a world dies. The entity shifted toward the team. Lyra shouted, "Everyone back." But before they could move, the entity released a silent wave of darkness.
Ren's vision blurred. Juno staggered. Karo gasped as his memories flickered.
Sarek collapsed briefly to one knee. The entity wasn't attacking their bodies. It was erasing parts of their minds. Lyra grabbed her team, shouting, "Stay together."
The entity drew closer. But then,
a burst of bright, shimmering energy struck the entity and pushed it back. The sentinel appeared in a flash of radiant light.
"Hurry," it urged.
The entity grows stronger. "You must reach the fractured nexus before it consumes the core."
Lyra steadied herself.
"What is the fractured nexus?" "A wound," the sentinel replied. "The first point of collapse, and your only chance to stop the entity." The convergence core continued to shake as the sentinel guided them away from the null entity's advancing darkness. The glowing threads around them flickered like dying embers. Lyra could feel the urgency in the sentinel's movements. Even though it wasn't truly a physical body, it moved as if the archive itself felt pain. They crossed a shifting bridge made of rotating hexagonal panels. Every time someone stepped forward, the panels rearranged themselves, forming new pathways that didn't exist a moment before. "Is this safe?"
Juno whispered nervously. "No," Kara replied.
But staying there was even less safe. Ren tried to steady his breathing as the darkness behind them pulsed softly, like a heartbeat with no life at all. The entity wasn't always inside the archive, was it?
The sentinel's voice echoed through their minds. "No.
It exists outside all creation. But as realities collapse, holes appear. The archive tries to seal them, but the entity uses those fractures to crawl inward." "And the nexus?"
Lyra asked.
"It is the largest wound, the point where collapse began. If you reach it, the truth will reveal itself." The new chamber they entered was vast and solemn. Unlike the earlier halls filled with glowing lights and swirling threads, this place was quiet.
Cold.
Empty. Floating in the air were massive holographic tablets, each flickering slowly with fading images of species that no longer existed.
Some looked humanoid.
Others resembled crystalline insects, cloud-like beings, or luminous energy shapes. Each hologram carried a single line of text in the archive's universal script. Ren translated softly, reading some aloud. "Extinct. Dimension erased. Timeline consumed." The crew went silent. These weren't past civilizations catalogued by history. These were worlds that the null entity had completely wiped from existence. Juno stopped at one hologram showing a gentle blue-skinned species living in floating gardens among tall wind towers.
"They look peaceful," she whispered.
The hologram flickered, and the final moment of that world played. The sky collapsing inward, the people reaching upward in confusion, and then a sudden flash as everything vanished into a spiral of emptiness.
Juno wiped her eyes.
They didn't even see it coming.
The sentinel approached them. This hall is all that remains of countless stories.
The archive remembers, so that someone can mourn them. Karo stepped closer to another hologram, one showing a gigantic golden city rising into the clouds.
It's not just the big civilizations, he said sadly.
Even tiny, unknown worlds are here too.
Yes, the sentinel said.
Every life, however small, matters.
Surik clenched his fists. We can't let this thing spread.
Lyra nodded, her voice firm. We won't. The walls around them began to shimmer, forming patterns like moving star maps. Lines connected and disconnected, creating complex geometric shapes.
The floor beneath them brightened.
A soft voice, different from the sentinel, echoed throughout the hall.
Archive status compromised. Dimensional stability, decreasing.
Warning, core breach predicted in 7 cycles. Fractured nexus integrity, unstable. Foreign infiltration detected.
Ren's eyes widened. That wasn't the sentinel, he said.
The sentinel lowered its head.
It is the archive's inner consciousness.
It speaks only during severe emergencies.
Lyra frowned. What does foreign infiltration mean?
The entity is already inside.
No, the sentinel said slowly.
This is something else.
The archive's voice continued.
Warning, unauthorized presence near the nexus.
Identity unknown.
Intent unknown.
Karo took a nervous step back.
So there's someone else inside the archive besides us and the entity. The sentinel's voice was grave.
Yes.
And if the archive cannot identify them, they are not friendly. They moved quickly through a winding maze of corridors that changed shape as they walked. Sometimes the walls stretched tall like cathedral pillars. Other times, the ceiling lowered so much they ducked instinctively. The patterns in the walls glowed in response to their thoughts, rearranging into symbols they recognized. It's reading our minds, Ren said. Trying to speak our language. As they progressed, the archive seemed to struggle.
Sections flickered. Floors cracked.
The temperature shifted from freezing to burning. We're getting closer to the nexus, the sentinel explained. The distortion increases here. Reality becomes inconsistent. Suddenly, the corridor ahead of them split into 3 branching paths. Surik raised a brow. Which one leads to the nexus?
They all look the same.
No, the sentinel replied. Only one is real. The other 2 paths began to blur, becoming transparent. Echoes of echoing footsteps came through them, but not their own. Someone was walking through the illusionary corridors.
Who's there? Lyra shouted. No answer came.
But the sound of footsteps continued, closer and closer, until a dark silhouette appeared at the far end of one of the false passages.
Then it vanished. Juno swallowed.
That wasn't the entity.
It had shape. The sentinel's voice dropped. The intruder seeks the nexus as well.
We must move faster. It guided them through the center path, which solidified into a glowing archway. The archway led into a colossal open chamber suspended in a void. Strange angular structures floated like broken mirrors, reflecting different realities, each mirror showing a world in distress.
Stars exploded. Moons crumbled.
Oceans drained into spirals of emptiness. And there, at the center of the chamber, was a massive tear, a gash in existence itself.
The fractured nexus.
It glowed with blinding white light along its edges, but the center was a swirling vortex of silent blackness. Faint screams, echoes, and whispers drifted from within, as if the voices of countless lost dimensions were calling out.
Ren shielded his eyes.
That tear, it's alive.
The sentinel nodded.
It is the wound where the null entity first entered the archive's domain.
Surik frowned.
How do we even begin to fix something like that? We do not repair it, the sentinel replied. You must enter it.
The team froze. Karo blinked.
Enter the tear in reality.
Juno stepped back.
That sounds like instant death.
Lyra narrowed her eyes.
What's inside?
Truth, the sentinel said. Origin. And the source of collapse. Ren swallowed.
And the intruder?
The sentinel's glow tightened like a clenched fist.
They are already inside. Lyra took a deep breath, her voice steady.
Then we have no choice.
We enter the nexus. Lyra took the first step toward the fractured nexus. The edges of the tear shimmered like liquid light, Yet the center was an endless black swirl. The air around them seemed to vibrate, distorting time and space. Every step forward felt like moving through thick water, yet the pull of the nexus drew them inexorably closer.
Ren hesitated.
I don't know if my mind can survive this.
Juno placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. We've come this far.
We can't turn back now. The Sentinel's form hovered beside them. The nexus tests perception. It separates fear from courage, doubt from reality. Only those who are determined may pass.
Surik tightened his grip on his energy staff.
Great. So we may die, but only if we waver.
Lyra didn't reply. She simply stepped into the light.
The sensation was immediate.
Gravity shifted. The floor disappeared.
Stars stretched like threads. They were no longer walking. They were drifting through an endless tunnel of light and darkness, suspended between dimensions. Each of their thoughts seemed to project into the swirling void, forming images and echoing voices around them.
Karo's voice trembled. It's showing me my past. My failures. My regrets.
Ren's mind flickered between realities, one where he never became a scientist, another where his family never existed.
The pull was almost too strong, but Lyra held his hand.
Focus, she said firmly. We're here to save existence, not get lost in it. As they traveled deeper, the swirling void began to condense.
Patterns formed.
Shapes became recognizable, a colossal, shadowy figure floating at the heart of the nexus. It radiated nothingness. Every thread of reality nearby twisted toward it, pulled in like water down a drain. Ren whispered, that must be the source. The null entity's anchor in this dimension. The Sentinel glowed brighter.
It is not merely a creature.
It is the essence of annihilation. It does not act out of malice, it is the natural entropy of all possibilities. Yet, it can be resisted.
Lyra narrowed her eyes.
How do we resist something that is nothing? The Sentinel extended a shimmering hand. You carry fragments of stability, fragments that belong to realities untouched.
They are small, but they have power. You must use them to weave a counter-thread.
Together, you may bind the source temporarily.
Juno turned to the group.
You mean, we create a thread of reality strong enough to stop annihilation?
Yes, the Sentinel said.
But it requires complete focus. One false thought, and the source will snap it. Surik adjusted his staff, preparing for defense. Then we hold it off while the others create the thread. Lyra closed her eyes and reached inward, searching for the fragment of stability the Sentinel spoke of. Slowly, she felt it, a glowing thread of her homeworld, her memories, her experiences, compacted into a delicate strand of light. Ren, Juno, Karo, and Surik found theirs as well, each thread representing a universe untouched by the null entity. The threads hovered before them, fragile and pulsating with life. Together, they extended the threads into the swirling vortex of the source. Sparks of light collided with the blackness, sending ripples across the nexus. The source responded instantly, swirling violently, attempting to consume their threads. Hold it steady,
Lyra shouted.
Her hands shook as the threads weaved together, intertwining their reality fragments into a lattice of glowing energy. Each member of the team focused, channeling memories, emotions, and understanding into the fragile construct. Ren added, I'm linking my thread with yours, Lyra. Don't let go. The source howled in silence, a ripple of erased worlds. Shadows pressed against their threads, bending and straining them. For a moment, it seemed as though the lattice would snap, dissolving into nothingness.
But Lyra held on. Juno held on.
Surik, Karo, and Ren held on. The threads glowed brighter than the entire nexus. The lattice grew, pushing the blackness back, anchoring a small region of reality. The source thrashed and reeled, but it could not completely destroy the counterthread. Just as the team began to gain ground, the vortex quivered. A new presence entered the nexus, the intruder the archive had warned about. A being materialized, humanoid but shifting, made entirely of silver light and shadow. Its eyes glowed with knowledge far beyond human comprehension. Who?
Karo whispered.
The intruder spoke in a resonant voice that vibrated inside their minds.
You meddle in forces you cannot control.
Reality is mine to shape.
Step aside. The Sentinel's glow intensified. This is the intruder.
A rogue being seeking to exploit the null entity to rewrite all dimensions in its own image. The intruder reached toward the counter-thread, and the lattice wavered. The source pulsed violently, feeding on the disturbance. Sparks of their fragile construct scattered. "Defend it!"
Lyra shouted.
Surik stepped forward, striking at the intruder with his energy staff. Each blow passed through the being harmlessly, yet the movements disrupted its concentration, giving the others precious seconds. Juno focused on her thread, weaving it tighter with Ren's. Karo extended his consciousness outward, lending the lattice strength from hidden fragments of alternate dimensions. The intruder hissed, its form flickering. "You cannot stop me. I will shape all realities in my will." Lyra clenched her teeth.
"We're not just fighting for ourselves.
We're fighting for every world that has ever lived, and every world that ever will."
As the intruder advanced again, something remarkable happened.
The 5 threads began to resonate together, forming a resonance pattern beyond human understanding. The lattice pulsed in synchronization with the nexus itself.
The source recoiled.
The intruder staggered as the combined strength of stability and memory pressed against it. The sentinel spoke, its voice more solid than ever.
"Your unity is the counterforce.
Together, you embody the essence of continuity. Without memory, without connection, the null entity is unstoppable. With it, you can resist." Lyra felt a surge of clarity. She focused every memory, every experience, every bond with her team into the lattice. The threads expanded, glowing brighter, forming a protective cocoon around the nexus. The source screamed silently, and the intruder shrieked in frustration, unable to approach. Finally, the counterthread pulsed one last time. The vortex of nothingness stabilized, though it remained a dangerous tear. The intruder, weakened and unable to control the source, vanished into a ripple of silver light. The source itself recoiled into a distant corner of the nexus, dormant for now. Lyra collapsed to her knees, gasping. The others followed, exhausted but alive. The threads of their combined efforts still glowed faintly, holding the fragile equilibrium of reality. The sentinel hovered beside them, its glow warm.
"You have done what the archive alone could not.
The nexus remains. The null entity has been contained, temporarily. But it waits. It always waits." Ren exhaled, shaking. We actually did it."
Juno gave a weak smile. "For now.
But the fight isn't over." The sentinel looked toward the swirling threads. "Now, you must return. The archive requires healing. And you must carry the memory of this fight to all who would understand." The team emerged from the fractured nexus exhausted, minds spinning from the raw force of reality they had just confronted. The convergence core itself seemed calmer, though faint ripples of instability still lingered, like the tremors after an earthquake. The sentinel guided them toward a chamber they hadn't noticed before, a vast circular room filled with radiant filaments of energy. "These are the healing conduits," the sentinel explained. "The archive sustains itself through them. After your intervention, the conduits need reinforcement."
Ren stared at the delicate strands.
"We helped stabilize the nexus, but now we have to, what? Repair a dimensional structure with our minds."
"Yes," the sentinel said.
"Your presence resonates with stability. Your memories, your experiences, your understanding of continuity, it strengthens the archive." Juno stepped forward hesitantly, touching one of the glowing filaments. A rush of warmth flowed through her, and she felt the faintest tug of empathy from countless lost worlds. Each filament seemed to pulse in response to her emotions: fear, hope, loss, courage, and determination. Kara whispered, "It's like the archive is alive in every possible way." Surik nodded, adjusting his energy staff. "Then let's not waste time."
Lyra took the lead. "Focus on the memories that matter most. Combine them with the other's strength.
Let's restore what we can." As they touched the filaments, visions filled their minds. Not just memories of their own worlds, but snippets from civilizations long erased, worlds that had been devoured by the null entity, and realities that were barely formed. They saw cities rise and fall, alien lifeforms invent and create, stars ignite and fade. Pain and joy, triumph and tragedy, all flowed through them. Ren gasped, clutching his head.
"It's too much.
My mind. I can't hold it all."
Juno placed a hand on his shoulder. "We're in this together.
Don't fight it alone." They realized the task was not just about thinking, but about feeling. Empathy connected the threads of the archive with their own experiences, reinforcing the lattice of existence. The longer they stayed, the more the conduits pulsed, spreading stability throughout the archive. The sentinel hovered nearby, its energy radiating softly. You are the first beings to intervene directly in the archive in cycles beyond measure. Every civilization that ever existed contributed, but none could act in harmony like this. Lyra focused on a memory of her homeworld, imagining her people thriving, surviving even the smallest challenges. The filament in front of her expanded, glowing brighter. Ren did the same, Juno, Caro, Surik. Together, they created a network of luminous threads that wove through the conduits, filling gaps left by the null entity. After what felt like hours, the trembling of the core subsided. The threads of reality shimmered with newfound strength, and the convergence core glowed with radiant light once again. The null entity's influence had been pushed to the edges of the nexus, dormant but still waiting. The intruder had vanished completely, leaving no trace. The sentinel's form pulsed with relief.
The archive is healing.
The damage will not reverse completely, but it will endure. For now, the memories of these worlds remain safe.
Caro let out a long breath.
It feels peaceful. Juno nodded, though exhaustion shadowed her face. For the first time since we entered, yes. Surik looked toward the floating monoliths in the Hall of Lost Civilizations. Do you think some of those worlds can be restored? The sentinel shook its shimmering form. The null entity took much.
Some cannot return, but their memory will remain within the archive. And memory is not nothing.
It is the seed of all potential.
Ren glanced around.
So we can never let it spread again.
Exactly, the sentinel said. It is a force that exists outside creation. It will wait for openings.
But the archive has learned to adapt, and now, so have you. The team paused at the edge of the convergence core, watching the streams of light pulse in rhythm. Lyra's mind raced. They had faced annihilation, a rogue intruder, and the null entity itself, and survived.
But the weight of knowledge pressed on them.
Each thread they touched, each memory they felt, reminded them of the fragility of existence.
Lyra turned to her crew. We've learned something no one else has.
That even in the vast emptiness, even against forces beyond comprehension, life matters. Every world, every being, every story. We're responsible for remembering.
Ren shivered.
And for protecting.
Juno smiled faintly.
For passing the knowledge on. The sentinel's glow pulsed in agreement. Memory, action, empathy, these are the archive's true strength.
You have contributed.
You have ensured continuity. But vigilance must remain. Surik crossed his arms, looking thoughtful.
So, the fight isn't over.
But now we have a chance to be ready for the next time the entity appears.
Yes, the sentinel replied. And you are not alone. The archive will aid you whenever it can. But you carry what it cannot, freedom.
And freedom shapes reality. As the team prepared to leave the convergence core, the sentinel guided them back to the shuttle bay. The walls of the archive shimmered in waves of light, now stable and resonant. Threads of reality floated around them, reminding them of everything they had seen, felt, and protected.
Lyra looked back one last time.
I don't think anyone will ever fully understand what we've done here.
The sentinel's form shimmered softly. Understanding is not required. Action is.
Memory is enough. Ren stepped onto the shuttle, glancing back at the glowing archive. Do you think it will last?
For now, the sentinel said.
But time is infinite, and challenges are inevitable.
The archive is eternal. So are you, in ways you do not yet realize.
The shuttle lifted off, gliding through the shimmering corridors of Dimensional Sector 9. Outside the window, the archive drifted silently, massive and unknowable, a beacon of memory and hope in a universe threatened by oblivion. Lyra leaned back in her seat, exhausted but resolute.
We survived. And we learned something crucial.
Every life, every world, every memory, matters.
Juno nodded.
And we carry them with us. Ren sighed, a mixture of relief and awe. I just hope we can live up to it. The shuttle exited the dimensional folds of Sector 9, the stars returning to their normal positions. The galaxy stretched before them, familiar yet forever changed in their eyes. The alien archive remained behind, a silent guardian of infinite realities, waiting, watching, remembering. The shuttle drifted back into the familiar regions of explored space. The stars appeared unchanged, yet the crew felt different. Dimensional Sector 9 had left its mark on their minds. Every glance, every sound seemed to carry the weight of infinite worlds and countless possibilities. Lyra sat in silence, hands folded.
"We've been changed," she said quietly.
"By the archive, and by what we faced." Ren nodded, still shaken. "The null entity, the intruder. I can't stop thinking about all the civilizations we saw, erased."
Juno placed a hand on his shoulder. "We saved what we could.
That matters." Surik remained stoic, gripping the edge of his seat.
"We stopped it this time.
But if the entity finds another tear, we might not be so lucky."
Karo leaned back, scrolling through his tablet. "I've been recording everything.
Every detail of the archive, every interaction, every thread we touched.
This knowledge could guide future explorers.
But it also could be dangerous in the wrong hands."
Lyra looked at him sharply.
"Then we protect it.
And we share it responsibly."
Even as they celebrated their survival, shadows lingered in the corners of their minds. Small fragments of erased realities occasionally flickered in their vision. People they never met, cities they never visited, languages they never learned. The null entity's influence, while contained, left a faint imprint on their perception. Ren shivered. "Sometimes I see them, fragments of lost worlds. It's like they're calling to me."
Juno frowned. "They are memories. The archive preserved them."
"You're just sensitive now."
Surik grunted.
"Or maybe the entity left something behind. A reminder." The Sentinel's words from within the Nexus echoed. "The null entity waits. It always waits." Lyra clenched her fists. "Then we need to be ready.
We can't assume peace will last."
Aboard the shuttle, Karo displayed the records he had compiled. Holographic spheres hovered in the cabin, each containing information about a different civilization, world, or timeline they had encountered.
Some were complete.
Others were fragments. Together, they formed a library of lost knowledge. "This is incredible," Juno whispered. "We can preserve these worlds in some way, even if they no longer exist." Ren studied the spheres.
"It's like giving life back to memory."
"We can study them, learn from them, and maybe prevent similar collapses in the future."
Surik shook his head.
"We're not gods.
We can't save everything. All we can do is try."
Lyra placed a hand over the controls, looking out at the stars.
"The archive trusted us with this.
Not just to save it, but to understand it. We have a responsibility to guard knowledge, protect what remains, and be vigilant for threats like the null entity."
Karo nodded solemnly.
"And the intruder? That being was intelligent, deliberate. It might return."
Lyra's expression hardened. "Then we prepare. We learn.
We protect." As they approached a friendly space station for resupply, a signal reached them, not from any known civilization, but from the archive itself. The light patterns flickered through the comm system, forming shapes that resonated with their memories.
The Sentinel's voice followed. "You have done well.
You have stabilized what few could.
But your journey is only beginning.
Memory and vigilance are the keys to survival.
Share wisely. Protect fiercely.
Return when needed."
Lyra replied into the comm, "We understand.
We'll honor the archive's trust." The signal faded, leaving the crew in quiet reflection. The scale of what they had witnessed, the archive, the null entity, and the lost civilizations, was almost incomprehensible. But they had survived, they had acted, and they carried something powerful, understanding. The shuttle docked at the space station. Lyra, Ren, Juno, Karo, and Surik stepped onto solid ground, feeling the contrast between the living world and the infinite voids they had traversed. Every conversation, every gesture, felt richer now, infused with awareness of how fragile and precious existence truly was. News of their mission spread slowly, but carefully. Scholars, scientists, and explorers studied the fragments they brought, yet the full truth of Dimensional Sector 9 and the alien archive remained largely unknown.
Some parts were classified. Some parts were left unsaid.
The galaxy wasn't ready for all of it. Yet the crew knew. Lyra stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. "We've seen the edge of nothingness," she said softly.
"And we came back. We carry memory now.
The archive has chosen us as its witnesses." Ren added, "And its guardians."
Juno smiled faintly.
"The fight isn't over, but we're stronger for it." Surik crossed his arms. "And more cautious."
Karo nodded.
"And wiser."
Lyra took a deep breath.
"Then we move forward. ready for whatever comes next. Weeks passed as the crew returned to their missions in different corners of the galaxy. Yet the lessons of the archive lingered in every thought, every decision. They began teaching others, quietly, about the importance of preserving knowledge, valuing life, and understanding the delicate web that connects all realities. They trained new explorers to recognize anomalies like the null entity and taught them to respect the mysteries of the cosmos. The archive remained in Dimensional Sector 9, drifting silently, a sentinel for infinite dimensions. Its threads pulsed with light and memory, waiting for the next challenge, the next explorers worthy of its trust. And somewhere, in the shadows between dimensions, the null entity lingered, patient, silent, waiting for an opening, as it always had. But for now, thanks to the courage and unity of Lyra and her team, the galaxy had survived one of its greatest threats. The alien archive had endured. And through it, so had countless memories, countless worlds, countless lives. Months passed since their return from the fractured nexus, but the universe was rarely at rest. Lyra and her team continued their missions, guided by the lessons they had learned from the archive. Yet the memory of the null entity and the intruder haunted them, a reminder that peace was fragile. One day, the Horizon Reach detected a strange signal far beyond mapped space. Unlike anything they had encountered before, the signal pulsed in irregular intervals, weaving complex patterns that almost seemed like communication. Ren analyzed it with growing unease. "This isn't natural," he said. "It's not a civilization. It's something else. Something aware." Juno frowned. Could it be another anomaly like the null entity? Surik tightened his grip on the controls. Or a trap. Lyra studied the readings. Whatever it is, it's moving. And it's heading toward Dimensional Sector 9. The team shared a tense silence. They had survived once, barely, and now something new, something unknown, was approaching the archive. They understood that history could repeat itself if they hesitated. Against their fear, they set course for Sector 9. The stars blurred as the warp engines propelled them into the hidden corridors of twisted space. When they arrived, the alien archive loomed silently, unchanged yet glowing softly, like a heart resting between beats. The sentinel emerged to greet them. Its energy pulsed with urgency. "You return at a time of great disturbance. The archive senses an intrusion in the outer threads. The null entity remains dormant, but this is different." Lyra asked cautiously. "Different how?" "The anomaly is not a force of annihilation," the sentinel explained. "It seeks information. It adapts. It learns. And it has found the paths that lead to the archive's core knowledge." Ren shivered. "So it's intelligent. And it wants the archive." "Yes," the sentinel said. "And you will face it first." Juno clenched her fists. "We survived before. We can survive again." Surik grunted. "Survived, yes. But I don't want another existential nightmare." Lyra nodded firmly. "We don't have a choice. We protect the archive. Whatever it takes." The team entered one of the archive's observation chambers, a room filled with floating holographic spheres, each representing a different dimension. The anomaly was visible in a distorted projection, a dark, shifting mass, pulsating with curiosity and intelligence. Unlike the null entity, it moved methodically, probing, analyzing, testing the edges of reality. Karo studied it. "It's scanning. Learning. It's trying to understand the structure of the archive, maybe even replicate it." Ren's voice was tight with worry. "If it learns how to manipulate the threads, it could be worse than the null entity." The sentinel pulsed softly. "It is not a creature of destruction, not yet. But curiosity, when unchecked, can be as dangerous as annihilation." Lyra stepped closer to the projection. "Then we engage it carefully. Observe it. Understand it. Don't let it reach the core." The team nodded, determined. This mission required all their knowledge, courage, and unity. The team split into pairs, each interacting with the threads of reality to monitor the anomaly. Lyra and Ren worked on stabilizing the outer conduits, preventing the anomaly from learning or corrupting them. Juno and Karo created decoy threads, drawing its attention while keeping vital structures hidden. Surik patrolled the outer perimeter, ready to act if physical intervention became necessary, though they all knew physical force could not affect a being of thought and light. Hours passed. The anomaly tested their traps, probing every weak spot. It adapted quickly, yet every time it approached a conduit, the team reinforced it with memories, experiences, and bonds, fragments of stability the anomaly could not comprehend. Ren whispered, "It's learning too fast. If we don't finish stabilizing the outer threads, it could reach the core before we're ready."
Lyra clenched her teeth. "Then we accelerate. Focus everything we have.
Every memory, every bond, every lesson from the fractured nexus." The sentinel pulsed beside them. "You will need unity."
The anomaly adapts individually. Together, you may outpace it.
As the anomaly neared the inner conduits, it extended a tendril-like projection, a beam of energy probing toward one of the floating memory spheres. The team acted immediately. Threads of light wrapped around it, guiding it into containment loops, while Lyra channeled their collective focus into the stabilizing lattice.
For a moment, the anomaly paused. It observed, analyzing.
Then, unexpectedly, it retracted its projection, pulsing in a pattern that seemed almost like communication.
Kara leaned forward.
"It's responding to us."
Ren nodded slowly. "It's not malevolent. Not in the same way as the null entity.
It's curious.
Testing boundaries.
It might even understand us."
Lyra studied it.
"Then we communicate. Carefully, precisely, with everything we've learned.
Show it balance. Show it cooperation.
Let it see that attacking is pointless." The anomaly pulsed brightly, almost like it was processing the lesson. Slowly, it moved away from the core, its curiosity seemingly satisfied, for now.
The sentinel glowed softly. "It will not leave permanently. But the archive has gained time.
You have shown it restraint, understanding, and strength.
These are tools stronger than force."
The crew took a moment to breathe. The tension eased, but the awareness of potential danger lingered. Unlike the null entity, this anomaly was alive in a different way, a thinking, adaptive presence.
Their task was no longer just defense. It was diplomacy through action and understanding. Lyra looked at each member of her team.
"We've faced annihilation, rogue intruders, and cosmic voids. Now we face the unknown, something new, something intelligent.
But we are ready.
We've learned that unity is more powerful than fear."
Ren smiled faintly.
"And patience is a weapon."
Juno nodded.
"Observation and understanding can prevent disaster without destroying the unknown."
Surik smirked.
"I still prefer a good fight, but I'll take this over the null entity any day."
Karo's eyes glimmered with hope.
"And we now carry the knowledge to guide this anomaly toward balance, rather than letting curiosity become chaos." The sentinel pulsed proudly. "You have become guardians of memory, knowledge, and stability.
Your actions today ensured that the archive endures.
And your unity ensures that the unknown, however dangerous, may still be guided toward coexistence." Lyra looked out the observation window, toward the pulsing anomaly beyond the archive.
"Then we wait, watch, and guide. Together.
For every world, every memory, every life that matters." The weeks after the anomaly's first approach were tense but peaceful. The team remained at Dimensional Sector 9, monitoring the archive, repairing minor fluctuations in the threads of reality, and reinforcing stability. Every ripple in the threads reminded them that even small disturbances could grow into catastrophic threats if left unchecked. Lyra stood on a platform overlooking the convergence core. The threads of reality glowed softly, more stable than ever since the last encounter. She reflected on all they had endured, the null entity, the fractured nexus, the rogue intruder, and now the curious anomaly. Each event had tested their courage, unity, and understanding. The sentinel hovered beside her, radiating calm light. "You have learned the balance of creation and memory. The archive is secure, but vigilance remains essential. Your role as guardians is permanent."
Lyra nodded.
"We've learned that survival isn't just about defeating threats. It's about understanding them, guiding them, and remembering the countless lives at stake." The sentinel's glow pulsed in agreement. "And through you, the archive will endure." In the central halls, the team worked to catalog the knowledge they had gathered. Holographic spheres floated around them, displaying fragments of civilizations long erased and timelines almost lost. Ren marveled at how interconnected everything had become. "Every memory we preserve strengthens the universe," he said. "Even if a world is gone, its essence lives on in the archive. And that essence can influence what comes next." Juno added, "It's like planting seeds. One memory can inspire countless possibilities, preventing future collapse."
Surik smiled faintly.
And we're the gardeners. Karo studied one of the spheres, showing a fragile alien city recovering from a cosmic disaster. These civilizations will never exist again physically, but their stories can guide others. Knowledge becomes a shield, and memory becomes a weapon against destruction.
Lyra nodded.
We've seen the worst of annihilation, but we've also seen the power of unity, courage, and understanding.
That's what we take with us.
That's what we teach. As they continued their work, the anomaly reappeared. This time, it moved more deliberately, maintaining a respectful distance from the core and the threads of reality. Its pulses seemed less like aggression and more like observation, a silent, intelligent curiosity. Ren whispered, "It's different this time."
"It's not testing us.
It's learning."
Juno added, "Or it's realizing that we're not enemies."
"That's a fragile truce, but it's something." The sentinel spoke softly. "The anomaly is adaptive.
You have shown restraint and unity. It is learning patience and boundaries.
This is progress."
Lyra watched the anomaly for a long moment.
"Then we continue.
We guide it. Not by force, but by example.
We show it balance, stability, and respect for memory. That's how we protect the archive without destroying the unknown."
Surik grunted.
"Diplomacy through action. I'll admit, I didn't see that coming."
Karo chuckled.
"Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones we don't fight directly." Months turned into years. The team occasionally returned to known space, training new explorers in the principles they had learned: vigilance, memory preservation, and unity. The knowledge they carried, fragments of countless civilizations, became the foundation of a quiet but vital program to safeguard reality. The alien archive itself remained in Dimensional Sector 9, glowing softly in the depths of folded space. Its threads pulsed with light, carrying the memories of every life it had recorded, strengthened by the courage and actions of Lyra and her team.
Lyra reflected on all they had faced. "The archive isn't just a library," she said.
"It's a reminder that existence is fragile, yet resilient.
That even the smallest action can preserve life across dimensions.
That memory itself can fight the darkness."
Ren nodded.
"And that we are all responsible for what we remember and what we protect."
Juno smiled faintly. "We've seen the edge of nothingness.
We've faced annihilation.
And we've survived.
That's the legacy we carry."
Surik crossed his arms.
"And the null entity waits. The anomaly waits. But so do we. We are the guardians of balance."
Karo looked at the floating spheres of memory.
"And as long as we remember, nothing is ever truly lost." From their positions within the galaxy, Lyra and her team continued their vigilance. The universe remained vast and unpredictable, full of wonders and dangers alike. But the alien archive stood as a silent sentinel, its threads of light connecting countless worlds, its memory preserved through the courage of those who had faced the impossible. The null entity lingered in the shadows, patient, waiting for a chance to strike. The anomaly pulsed with curiosity, testing boundaries yet learning from the Guardian's restraint. And the galaxy, unknowingly, had protectors watching over it, 5 humans who had witnessed the edge of reality and returned to carry the memory of all life, all worlds, all possibilities. Lyra looked out at the stars, a quiet smile on her face.
"We've seen what's at stake, and we'll make sure it survives."
Ren added softly, "One thread, one memory, one action at a time." The sentinel pulsed gently in agreement. The archive's light spread further into the folds of space, its silent guardianship enduring. And in the infinite expanse of the universe, countless worlds continued, connected, remembered, and preserved, thanks to those who dared to stand against the void. Dimensional Sector 9 remained a secret to most of the galaxy. Yet in the minds and hearts of Lyra, Ren, Juno, Karo, and Surik, its lessons lived on. Every choice, every act of preservation, every shared memory became part of a larger story. The story of resilience, courage, and the enduring power of memory. The alien archive, ancient beyond comprehension, continued to watch. Its threads of reality shimmered with countless lives, histories, and possibilities. And though the universe contained dangers that defied understanding, there were also those who remembered, those who acted, and those who protected. In a galaxy filled with infinite mysteries, the archive and its guardians stood as one constant, the light of memory in the darkness of oblivion.